UI table view and a UI table view controller. A UI table view displays a single column of data with a variable number of rows. To get started, open Xcode and create an iOS single view application project named HomePoner. UI table view controller. UI table view is a view object. As a view object of MVC design panel, a UI table view does not handle application logic or data. When using a UI table view, you must consider what else is necessary to get the table working in your application. Now, open main.storyboard, delete the view controller, and drag a new UI table view controller from the object library. An instance of the class UI table view controller can fill all three roles: view controller, data source, and delegate. UI table view controller is a subclass of UI view controller and therefore has a view. A UI table view controller's view is always an instance of UI table view, and the UI table view controller handles the preparation and presentation of the UI table view. When a UI table view controller creates its view, the data source and delegate properties of the UI table view are automatically set to point at the UI table view controller. You are going to implement a subclass of UI table view controller for HomePoner. Create a new Swift file named items view controller. In items view controller.swift, define a UI table view controller subclass named items view controller. In main.storyboard, with the table view controller selected, open its identity inspector and change the class to items view controller. Finally, open the attributes inspector for items view controller and check the box for its initial view controller. Build and run your application. You should see an empty table view. As a subclass of UI view controller, a UI table view controller inherits the view property. When this property is accessed for the first time, the loadView method is called and creates and loads a view object. A UI table view controller's view is always an instance of UI table view. So asking for the view of an UI table view controller gets you a bright, shiny, and empty table view. You no longer need the view controller.swift file that the template created for you. Select this file in the project navigator and press delete. Creating the item class. Your table view needs some rows to display. Each row in the table view will display an item with information such as a name, serial number, and value in dollars. Create a new Swift file named item. In item.swift, define the item class and give it 4 properties. Item inherit from NS object. NS object is a base class that most Objective-C classes inherit from. Every class has at least one designed initializer. Implement a new designed initializer on the item class that sets the initial values for all of the properties. This initializer takes in arguments for the name, serial number, and value in dollars. Because the argument names and the property names are the same, you must use self to distinguish the property from the argument. Add a convenience initializer to item that creates a randomly generated item. Convenience initializers are indicated by the convenience keyword before the initializer name. Every class must have at least one designated initializer, and convenience initializers are optional. If random is true, the instance is configured with a random name, serial number, and value. The arcRandomUniform function returns a random value between 0 and the value passed in as the argument. Notice that at the end of both branches of the conditional, you are calling through to the designated initializer for atom. Convenience initializers must call another initializer on the same type, whereas designated initializers must call a designated initializer on its superclass. The atom class is ready for work. In the next section, you will display an array of atom instances in a table view. UI table view's data source. In Cocoa Touch, the table view asks another object, its data source, what it should display. In this case, the atom's view controller is the data source, so it needs a way to store atom data. You are going to use an array to store the atom instances, but with a twist. The array that holds the atom instances will be abstracted into another object, an atom store. Create a new Swift file named atom store. In atomStore.swift, define the atomStore class and declare a property to store the list of atoms. atomStore is a Swift-based class. It does not inherit from any other class. Unlike the atom class you defined earlier, atomStore does not require any of the behavior that an object affords. The atom's view controller will call a method on atomStore when it wants a new atom to be created. The atomStore will oblige creating the object and adding it to an array of instances of atom. In atomStore.swift, implement createAtom to create and return a new atom, and then implement the designated initializer to add 5 random atoms. The discardable result annotation means that a caller of this function is free to ignore the result of calling this function. Now let's give the controller access to the store. In atomsViewController.swift, add a property for an atom store. Without considering the dependency invariant principle, we can initialize the atom store in viewDidLoad method. The dependency invariant principle makes the code more complex, so we ignore it for now. In atomViewController.swift, implement table view number of rows in section. The numbers of the rows should be the count of all atoms in atom store. UI table view cells. Each row of a table view is a view. These views are instances of UI table view cell. In this section, you will create the instances of your table view cell to fill the table view. In atomsViewController.swift, implement table view cell for row at method so that the nth row displays the nth entry in the all items array. Build and run the application now, and you will see your table view populated with a list of random atoms. When the user scrolls the table, some cells move off-screen. Off-screen cells are put into a pool of cells available for reuse. Then, instead of creating a brand new cell for every request, the data source first checks the pool. If there is an unused cell, the data source configures it with a new data and returns it to the table view. To reuse cells, you need to register either a prototype cell or class with the table view for a specific reuse identifier. In main storyboard, open the table view cell's attributes inspector and set its identifier attribute to UI table view cell. Next, in items view controllers.swift, update table view cell for row add method to reuse the cells like this. The method dequeue reusable cell with identifier 4 will check the pool or queue of cells to see whether a cell with the correct reuse identifier already exists. If so, it will dequeue that cell. If there is not an existing cell, a new cell will be created and returned. Build and run the application. The behavior of the application should remain the same. Reusing cells means that you only have to create a handful of cells, which puts fewer demands on memory. Your application's users and their devices will thank you. Challenge: constant rows. Make the last row of the UI table view always has the text "No more items." Make sure this row appears regardless of the number of items in the store, including 0 items. Congratulations! You are closer to a professional developer. See you next time.